group coverage has a limitation, and the limitation is that group coverage does not follow you. And what does that mean? It does not stay with you whenever you leave your employer. Welcome to Wealth in Progress, the weekly podcast for professionals in their 30s and 40s trying to build wealth while juggling careers, family, rising expenses, and the occasional panic after scrolling social media for 5 minutes. I'm PJ, founder of Wealth and Plan, a virtual financial planning practice serving clients nationwide. If you want to learn more or start a conversation, head over to wealthandplan.com. We are currently accepting new clients and would love to get to know you. Here is this week's episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Wealth in Progress. I'm your host, PJ. I'm the founder and financial planner here at Wealth and Plan. And if this is the first time that you're joining us, we are in the middle of a 5-part series covering your employer benefits and really just defining the different areas that might be available to you, explaining what they are, how can you take advantage of some of these benefits, make sure you have a better understanding of them. And today we are on week 3, and we will be covering life insurance. So let's get right into it. If you've missed some of our previous episodes on this 5-part series, week 1 we covered 401k basics. Last week we covered disability coverage. Like I said, today we'll be covering group life insurance. And then we have 2 more episodes left after this. And we will be talking about AD&D coverage, which is a little different than group life insurance, and wrap it up with some other benefits that might be available to you, such as health savings accounts, flexible savings accounts, and some of those other additional benefits that your employer might provide to you. So let's jump into this week's episode talking about group life insurance. So first of all, what is group life insurance? It is pretty straightforward. It is a life insurance policy that if you were to pass away, gets paid out to your beneficiary or beneficiaries, whoever it is that you name. So essentially, they just pay out a lump sum, whatever the amount is that you have. If something happens to you, the policy will pay out. It's really important to make sure that you know who your beneficiary is. This really kind of comes into play if you've been at an employer for a long period of time and maybe things have changed in your life and the beneficiary that you had originally is no longer who you wish to be named currently. So really just important that if you do have a group life policy and if you haven't looked at it for a long time, or if you had a life change, maybe you got married and previously had your parents listed when you started working there, now you're married, so you want to list your spouse, or list some other family member. If you need to make those changes, it's important to just take a look at it, make sure that it is still paying out to who you'd want to pay out in case there was that need. Next thing about group life insurance is it is typically paid for by your employer. So when you think of the term group, that's really what it's talking about, right? It's part of a plan that is covering a group of people. Many employers, they will pay for this type of coverage up to a point. The most common amount that I've seen is $50,000 of death benefit that you will get from your employer at no cost to you. So you might be asking why 50,000? The reason being is because even though your employer is the one paying for those premiums, it is still a benefit to you, that premium part, right? So let's say, and again, I'm just throwing hypothetical numbers out there. Let's say that you have $50,000 of benefit and it costs your employer $50 a month to provide you that benefit. Well, as long as the policy is $50,000 or under, in terms of the death benefit, then that premium will not be taxed to you, will not be taxable income to you. If your employer provides a benefit to you that is above and beyond 50,000, let's say they said, okay, we'll pay for your coverage up to $100,000, then that premium will be taxable income to you. Again, it's not going to be this significant tax amount or tax liability amount that you'll see, but that premium, whatever the premium is that your employer is covering, would be technically taxable income to you, and you'd have to pay tax on that premium amount. So that's why the most common number that you'll see through most employers will be $50,000 because it's something that they're able to provide to you, and you will not have to pay any tax on those premium amounts. The death benefit itself, like I said, is tax-free. So regardless of the amount, as long as the policy is open and active, and if there is that event where the policy needs to pay out, it will be paid out tax-free to your beneficiaries. So you might be asking, okay, well, my employer provides $50,000. What if I need more coverage? You might see some employers offer add-ons, essentially, where they say, you can buy 1x your salary and you'll have to pay, whatever the premium is, or 2x, 3x, whatever the multiple of your salary is, they'll typically offer you as a benefit to buy additional coverage. So that is an option. If you do want to buy additional coverage through your employer, and if it's offered to you, that is certainly something that you can do. The premiums themselves are typically based off the group rate, so they don't typically go based on your health. There's no health underwriting. It's typically whatever the group rate is, that's what you would pay for your premium for that higher amount. It's probably worth it to do some sort of comparison, right, to see whether or not the premium is cheaper through your employer or cheaper through maybe like a third party to purchase additional coverage. But, typically it will be offered at those group rates. It could be cheaper than outside insurance if this is something that you want to add on. And the way that you pay for those premiums, in case you do want to add on additional coverage, is they're taken out of your paycheck. It's a payroll deduction. So you never really see those dollars, hit your bank account, right? If you get paid and your premium's $10 a month, it'll just come out of your paycheck and you'll get the net amount after, taxes and all that fun stuff that they take out for other things. Point number 5 in this presentation, if you take anything out of this video this week, is group coverage has a limitation. And the limitation is that group coverage does not follow you. And what does that mean? It does not stay with you whenever you leave your employer. So if you have coverage and you're thinking to yourself, oh, great, okay, I'm properly insured because I have X amount of death benefit coverage. Well, one thing to keep in mind is that if for some reason you have an event where your employer has a layoff and they lay you off, or you have an event where you get sick and you're unable to perform your duties and your employer lets you go, right? And let's say all that results in a death, and you thought that you were properly insured, but really the policy ended whenever you left your employers. That is really something to keep in mind, is that group coverage is only available to you while you're employed with your current employer. Again, the solution to that is to seek out third-party life insurance. Obviously, third-party life insurance does not care where you work as long as you satisfy their terms and conditions. But group life insurance, the big limitation of it is that it only follows you while you're working for that employer. There are some plans out there offered by employers that allow you to convert policies into maybe a permanent policy or something outside of your group policy. That is sometimes a feature that an employer policy will offer. And also they sometimes do have portability. So in other words, you can take your current policy and start paying the premiums yourself, and essentially keep that policy forever and ever as long as you need it. But it's not always the case. So again, it's important to really understand what you have, and if this is something that you're doing research on, making sure that you're properly insured, it's important to understand whether or not your policy is convertible and or portable. So really just kind of a summary of what I talked about. Typically, the base coverage is $50,000. Again, this is not always the case. That is the typical case that I see with most of the high-earning young professionals out there. It could be a multiple of salary too. It could be 1x, 2x salary. But again, the $50,000 is typically the one that's not taxable to you. It is paid by your employer, depending on the coverage amount. Nice thing about group policy is there is no medical underwriting required, again, because it's insuring a group of people. That's how the insurance company diversifies their risk. So if you do have a, unfavorable health history, or if you are unable to obtain outside coverage for whatever reason, uh, coverage from your employer will not ask you for medical underwriting. They won't have you do, blood work and an exam and all that good stuff. So that is, again, something to consider if you are unhealthy, or if you are for some reason declined for coverage outside. Then a coverage through the employer might be the solution there, because there's no underwriting, and it does pay a lump sum to your beneficiary if the policy ever needs to be paid out. Some of the add-ons that you could have that we talked about: supplemental coverage at group rates. So again, this is talking about adding additional coverage at a rate based off the group rate. So it might be cheaper, it might not be, but you typically do have an option to add on additional coverage. The coverage that you can add is typically a multiple of your salary. I've seen it go as high as 10x salary. Again, it's not often that employers will offer that, but sometimes they do. So it's worth checking into. It's paid through your payroll deduction, so it's nice that you don't even kind of get that paid to yourself and then have to set up an additional, auto payment or something. It's typically just taken out of your paycheck. So it's pretty convenient to purchase group life coverage. And like I mentioned earlier, it is worth comparing against outside policies, third-party policies, because third-party policies may be cheaper, they might be more flexible, they might be more favorable in terms of terms. They stay with you beyond your employment, follows you, whichever employer that you're with. But there again are pros and cons with every single option, and so you do have to weigh those pros and cons whenever you're comparing coverage. Next week we are going to talk about AD&D coverage, which again is a little different than life insurance, and so we'll go into those pros and cons as well. Just to kind of wrap up this group life coverage conversation, here at Wealth and Plan, we are not insurance brokers. We don't earn commissions. We are not going to sell you a product. We're not going to sell you any life insurance or annuities or anything of that sort, but we do have brokers that we're familiar with, that we trust, that can place coverage for you. So whenever you do work with us, we will take a look at the benefits that you currently have, and we'll analyze what you should have. We make those recommendations to you, and then if you ever do decide to purchase a life insurance policy, we reach out to an expert who handles life insurance underwriting and all that good stuff, and allows you to get that coverage. So we are never going to be the guys to sell you this coverage, but we're always happy to take a look at what you have, take a look at what you need, and guide you in the right direction. So a couple of disclosures as always. Just a reminder, this is for educational purposes only. This is never investment advice. Everyone's situation is different, so always talk to a financial professional before you make any decisions. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure that you like and subscribe. It allows us to reach more people and educate more people. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much for watching the video. We also post this on Spotify and Apple Podcasts if you like to just put us on in the background while you're doing things around the house or driving. And we also do post highlights on our LinkedIn and Instagram channels. So feel free to follow us or connect with us on those platforms as well. And other than that, thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. And I will see you guys next week talking about AD&D coverage. Have a great week. Bye-bye.